This is Paul. Yeah. I'm just reading this law dictionary. Yeah. They have what's constructive contempt of court, committed outside the court, refusal to accept or obey a summons or subpoena in constructive contempt, as in the intimidation of a witness. Now, does that include the intimidation of a defendant? Now, there's the constructive crime, an act constructed to be unlawful by a court, but not so obviously unlawful that prosecution would ordinarily ensue. It is a crime built up by a court, yes. And then they have constructive malice. See, legal malice. Legal malice. Just for legal malice, yeah. Legal malice, legal evidence, legal fraud, legal errors, legal insanity, legal liability, legal malice, the intentional performance of a wrongful act without cause or provocation, constructive malice, malice in law. Now, as I look at the history of what has happened, seem like without my provocation, there's been a lot of constructive malice. There are a lot of individuals that dislike me for whatever reason. Maybe they got paid to dislike me. Now, you had this declaration of mailing, yes, then a temporary order was 10 days later, yes, and then a parenting plan, temporary order, motion, hearing. Was the actual number of legal days given from the time of the declaration of mailing to when there was a temporary order, and the motion hearing on the 5th of October? Was that a little soon? Because how do you know how many legal days from the time of mailing until the actual receipt of the mailing? Because I don't remember actually getting any mailing. Now, it can't be 5 judicial days, can it? Because how do you know that the mail's going to get to a location within a certain number of days? Do you have to give 5 judicial days for a mailing inclusive of the date of mailing, and then you have to give 2 days for a weekend, so that'd be 7, 8, and then it'd have to be another 5 judicial days for a response, folks, inclusive another weekend? That would be 15 days. Now, settlement conference action 1231, declaration, temporary motion hearing. Now, if you declared it on the 5th and September has 31 days, that would be 11 days. Is that actually the legal number of days from the day of mailing? Was I ever given actual number of judicial days before any court hearings? I'd just like to know, was there some constructive malice on the part of the court against me, considering they issued a protection order in 2011 where they must have known that I was not given any notice or opportunity to be heard? And since it violated the Violence Against Women's Act, did they intentionally have court hearings where I wasn't given the legal number of judicial days to respond? Because how do you know when the mail actually gets to an address and when the recipient actually receives the mailing? I just wanted to know. It's looking more and more like constructive crime. Now, there was a motion hearing, and then there was 2 months from October to November, November to December. Actually, it would have been October to November, November to December, and then December to January. Mail returned unclaimed. That was 11 days afterwards. Now, there was no declaration of mailing, but there was a mail returned unclaimed. Where did you send the mail, and when was the mail sent, and when was the mail delivered? If there's no declaration of mailing, how can the mail be returned unclaimed? I just wanted to know, is there some constructive crime going on involving some constructive malice against me as the father of 5 sons, Pooch? Because if you don't have a declaration of mailing and then you have a mail return unclaimed, how do I know when you actually sent them? I did have a telephone number in 2013. Petitioner's trial brief, okay, and then a parenting plan, order for support, residential findings, facts, and decree of dissolution, non-jury trial. Now there's one mail returned unclaimed, and then there's another mail returned unclaimed, but where's the declaration of mailing on each one of those mail returned unclaimed? Where was the mail sent and when was it sent? Was it sent to a post office in XYZ County, or did you send it someplace else? Because in 2013, I got kicked out of my grandma's house, and I spent Christmas with her. I think my uncle or my aunt kicked me out. I ended up at the Serenity House. I thought for sure I was probably, I wonder where I was at. I'll have to look in my records. Now, it seems to me that somebody's been using some very constructive malice and some very constructive crimes to commit some very, very unlawful ways of doing things. Now, I've sent quite a few emails documenting that if there's no declaration of mailing, how do you know when it was mailed? And if there's a declaration of returned mail, where did you send it? And since I had a phone number, why was it that I wasn't just called by the sheriff or the police department? And how is it that no one had my email address this whole time? Because I thought for sure I got a new phone number, 360747. Hang on just a second here. I haven't got it memorized yet. 747-8431. If you know you're getting sued for refusing to enforce the laws of the United States, if you're elected or appointed oath of office in every and all state legislatures, if you're a sheriff in any county in Nebraska, if you happen to be an attorney and you think that sworn oath of attorney is not enforceable, I'm sitting out here oppressed and defenseless because no one would email me, and I have as yet gotten no phone calls.